Hey traders, welcome to this week's Forex Focus. I hope you are all doing well and you've all had a good week in the markets. There are certainly things that we need to discuss this week because there are potentially some big changes in the market going forward and some big trend continuations, but also the possibility for a few reversals there as well. Now, last week we had the US, so the Federal Reserve came out and raised interest rates, as did the European Central Bank, but the forward guidance was very, very different. So whereas with the ECB, they kind of indicated that they would be hiking more, the Federal Reserve, indicated that actually this would be the end of their rate hikes, and actually the markets are starting to price in some rate cuts. The week ahead, we have the Bank of England coming out and we expect them to raise interest rates. It'll be interesting to see what they say in terms of their forward guidance. But in terms of the FX markets and the opportunities that are setting up there really are some interesting ones. Some pairs that have sort of been going sideways for the past month or so. I think there's direction that's going to come back into the market. So I think there are going to be some really, really good opportunities there for us to take advantage of. So without further ado, let's jump across to the charts and let's look at those opportunities. So if we start off by taking a look at the Aussie dollar here we can see has been moving sideways for quite a while now. And what I'll do is let me zoom into the daily chart here just to give you a bit of a longer term view. And, as with always, if I feel that there's an opportunity on the shorter term side, then we'll jump down to the shorter term charts. But we'll start with the dailies because this gives us a directional view, which, as I said many times in the past, is sort of the best chart to trade, particularly for you, those of you that are new and sort of just starting out, because it is one of the easiest charts to trade. It's one of the ones that provide the most reliable signals. So from that perspective, that's where we're always going to start our analysis. Now, the Aussie dollar, we can see that it is pulling back to a resistance level. It's sort of been in a range now since the end of February. So the end of February, we got this little bit of a sell-off. We expected the markets to go lower, and then they sort of retraced, and they haven't really gone anywhere. Now, with the Aussie dollar, if we kind of take a look at this, I'm going to put in another support level here. And what I'm going to say is that I don't really want to do anything with this pair unless we get a breakout of this resistance at 0.6806 or the support down here at 0.6571, okay? Because essentially, if you're trading in this, I'm not saying that you can't make money in this area here. You can certainly jump down to lower time frames, but there isn't a longer term direction, and it's always easier to trade when you're trading with some long term momentum, a long term trend, because even if you get your timing a little bit wrong, there's still an opportunity there to be able to make money, or at least to be able to mitigate some of your risk. So from that perspective, the Aussie dollar is probably one that I'm going to leave alone going into next week. Now, the euro dollar is the next one that we want to talk about. This one here, we've got a complete divergence in the monetary policy between the Federal Reserve and the ECB. And the story, the narrative that's sort of building up in the markets is the fact that the ECB obviously are going to raise interest rates, and the Federal Reserve are going to start to cut interest rates, which is going to narrow that interest rate differential between the two currencies. And what this essentially means is, even if, for example, it doesn't, the differential doesn't move towards the euro, so we have a positive differential in the eurozone, we will get a narrowing. And all of the investors, all of the traders that sold all of this over here, some of that is going to start to get unwound. So people will start to take money out of the US and they'll move it back into Europe, and that's going to cause the euro dollar to rise. Now, I'm not just going to take a buy because they're my thoughts. Obviously, we still need to look at the price action. We want to react when we get an opportunity in the markets, because if we just try and guess, then even though we might be right in the next 3 to 6 months, we might find that we end up holding a position for longer than we need to. And the idea with trading as opposed to investing is that we want to be in and out of the markets. We want to recycle our money as quickly as possible. Obviously, we don't want to force it, but as quickly as possible so that we can then deploy our capital in other areas to give us other opportunities to make money. Whereas when you're investing, you kind of take a little bit of a longer term view of things, and you don't mind if you're in a position for a number of months or even a number of years. But we're talking about trading here. So from that perspective, we need to wait for the right opportunity. And I think that that's going to come if we can eventually get a breakout of this resistance level over here at the 1.1096. If we move it up a little bit, let's just call it the 1.1100. If we can get the market breakout above that level there, then I'm going to be looking for long opportunities. Now, The next one is the pound dollar. Now, I've been long this for quite some time now. It's been paying quite nicely. It broke out of a resistance level over here on Friday. We also broke out of the structure level quite a few weeks back. So at the beginning of April, the market then sort of meandered and went sideways. And it looks like the market is going to continue to break to the upside. So if I wasn't already in this market, I am in this market, then I would be looking for opportunities to get long the pound dollar. However, the one thing that you do need to consider going into next week is that we do have the Bank of England coming out. So we expect them to raise interest rates. That's something absolutely we expect to happen. But what's going to be important is what they say in terms of the forward guidance. So are they going to continue to raise interest rates? Are they going to start to be a little bit more dovish and maybe sort of pause and start looking at maybe a rate cut cycle later on in this year or early next year? All of that is going to play into, whether the pound dollar is going to appreciate, at least in the near term. I think going back to what I was saying earlier, in the next 3 to 6 months, we certainly see the pound dollar a little bit higher, even if it's an unwinding of the short position that was built up in 2022. I think we do see this go higher, but, like I said, we want to see what happens next week at the Bank of England meeting. At the moment, I am long. I would still be looking for longs, but just sort of have a little bit of caution there. And if you're about to take a position going into that meeting, then perhaps just hold back until after and then take the position. But if you're going to take a position early Monday morning, sort of going into that meeting, then I think that that's absolutely fine. But I think that the pound dollar certainly is going higher. If we move on to the New Zealand dollar, this one I find a little bit more challenging because on the one side, I've got this trend line over here that I'm waiting to be broken. I think that this moves lower. But then on the other hand, we've actually, if I just bring this in here, you can see that we've got another trend line here, which is being formed and looks like it's going to be broken. So, from a fundamental perspective, I don't have a strong view on this one as such. So I think that I would trade this technically. So from that perspective, if the market closes above this trend line, then I'm going to start looking for long opportunities. By the same token, if the market breaks above here and then closes back below and starts selling down and then gets below this trend line, then I'll be looking for shorting opportunities. But whilst it's in this area here, similar to the Aussie dollar, I think it's sort of in no man's land. So we really need to wait to see what happens before we take a position there. Moving on to the dollar CAD. So the dollar CAD here, we've got a very strong support level, which you can also see on the weekly down at 1.3263. All right. The market has been moving sideways. It hasn't really gone anywhere very quickly. It's almost like the dollar and the CAD are moving in lockstep at the moment, at least when you look at it from a longer term perspective. It's been stuck in this range between 1.32 and let's call it 1.38. So about 500 pip range, which does give you opportunity to make money. But it's still challenging all the same because you don't have this directional bias that you had here. Now, if I jump down, so if we move across to the 4-hour chart, you'll see that actually there could be an opportunity on the shorter term charts to trade down towards this support level. I want to move across to the weekly here for a second, just so you can see that, this is a strong level of support, as you can see here. So it's support on the 7th of November, support again on the 6th of February. And then it was just a big trouble area going back into 2017 and 2019. So we don't expect clean trading through this area here. However, trading up to it, if we look at it on the 4-hour charts, I do think that we got the momentum on Friday. We had strong jobs numbers out of both Canada and the US actually, but it looks like the market is taking this more as and this could obviously be the Fed meeting last week as well. But it looks like the Canadian dollar potentially is going to strengthen. And looking at this momentum here, the most obvious direction to take this trade is to the downside. So what I would look to do is really look for the market. I wouldn't sell it here where it is. I'd wait for the market to pull back a little bit. So, sort of give us, let me get a pen in here a minute. Give us a little bit of price action like this, and then go for a next move down, or even a more pronounced one like that, and then make a move down towards the support level over here. I really think that this market is going to go lower. That's, essentially what the signs are showing. So I'm going to be looking for shorting opportunities, selling opportunities in the dollar CAD, at least in the short term, going down to this support level down at 1.3262 next week. If we look at the dollar franc, so you can't really see it on the 4-hour charts. The daily chart, we've been long the franc for a little while this year, and it's paid really quite nicely, although primarily it was on the Aussie franc. But we do see that the franc is strengthening. It has been doing it for a little while now. The price action, however, on the dollar franc isn't as clean. So there are better opportunities out there to be able to express, let's say, a short dollar view. So looking at the euro, looking at the pound, for example, or even looking at the Canadian dollar, which we just spoken about. I do think that this is going to go lower, but at the moment, I can't really see an opportunity, a technical opportunity to get in there that's going to allow us to keep our risk sort of low. What if the market next week, it sort of, it starts to trade lower, we get a momentum candle break and close below 0.8816, then I will start looking at shorting opportunities. But at the moment, I want to see that happen before I get involved in this trade. And then finally, we've got the dollar yen, which is a bit of a tough one to trade at the moment. It's trading in the middle of nowhere. I think in 6 months' time, this does go lower, but there's no momentum in the markets at the moment. So from that perspective, I'll just say that, the high, if it breaks through 138.08, I would entertain long opportunities, but really, I'm looking for the market to break beneath this trend line over here. So get rid of the drawing tool. So I'm looking for the markets to break through this level over here. Once it does that, then I think that, the markets are really sort of starting to sell the dollar, and that will be the big trade going into the end of this year. And that will be a good opportunity to get involved there. Okay. So that wraps it up for this week's Forex Focus. I hope that all makes sense to you. I hope that sort of gives you some ideas to be able to, to build into your own portfolio, your own trading. Remember, this isn't investment advice. It's not trading advice. I'm just telling you what I'm looking to do with my own portfolio, with my own trading, and then hopefully you can learn from that. You can take that and incorporate it into the things that you do. Remember, if you want to learn a little bit more about my strategies, then head over to my website. I'll post a link beneath this video here. You can sign up for one of my masterclasses, learn the strategy that I'm using at the moment, or a version of that strategy. If you have any questions, please feel free to post it beneath the video here. And if you haven't already subscribed, then please subscribe and hit that bell button so that you get updated, you get notified as and when I release new videos. Thank you so much for watching now, and I look forward to speaking to you in the very next one. Take care.